February is a month fraught with angst in college basketball. The Big East seems to be taking that to the absolute extreme this year. By my count, of the 11 fan bases in the conference at this moment, there might be two who are currently content with their program. We put the fans into tears of joy next on Big East Beat. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Big East Beat. We're part of the Big East Energy Network. I'm Matt Janus of the Holy Nova podcast, alongside David White, also from Holy Nova, and Bryan Webster in the center of your screen from Pirate Vibe. Guys, we talked about the joy inside of the Big East fan bases. That's our topic this week. There's no joy in Mudville up in New England, and I know somebody who's a Patriots fan who probably isn't feeling too good today.
Man, are we going to do this again? Like the Seton Hall thing? Like I had to go on your show. You guys jump, and now the Patriots lose, and you got to keep. Man, come on. Let's keep it clean. Keep the gloves up here.
In our pre-show discussion, you didn't say a word about the game. You talked about the commercials, so I knew you were hurting.
Oh, 100%, man. Even though it was a crazy season to even think that they were in the Super Bowl, because I didn't expect them to win 9-10 games.
Well, Bryan, for the first time ever, I'm with you.
Oh my God!
I hate the Patriots, hate them, but Drake May, love Drake May.
Yeah, even after the Super Bowl.
Hey,
it's still Drake May.
He played for North Carolina, and
his dad did too, right?
It got kind of ugly sometimes.
His dad was a quarterback too, right?
Yeah.
That's a Tar Heel family.
Grandfather was that is Josh Darnold, whose grandfather was the Marlboro Man. So if we're talking family connections in the Super Bowl, Darnold beats him again. That was just kind of the way that went. All right, enough of the Super Bowl. We've got a great show on tap. We're talking which fan bases in the Big East are currently content with their programs. Spoiler alert, not as many as you would have hoped going into the year. There is angst in the Big East. We'll talk who's content, who is on the fence, and who is ready for next season to begin. But first, I've got to do a little bit of ranting. And normally, my rants, they range anywhere from cool to lukewarm. But I'm actually pretty fired up about this one. It's why you love college basketball, all the different ancillary stuff. So you got Duke, North Carolina upsets Duke, and the coaches start talking about whether a fan was or was not punched after the game. Well, the Big East had their own kind of version of that over the weekend. Kevin Willard took his Villanova team down to Washington, D.C., gutted out a road win against Georgetown. It was a big-time victory for the Cats. It was a letdown situation after they beat Seton Hall. Easily could have went against them. They missed 14 free throws, and yet they found a way to win. But the talk afterwards was Kevin Willard's response to the media after a few hundred Maryland fans went to D.C. to boo and heckle their former head coach. The media asked Willard afterwards, Nolan Rogowski in specific of the Testudo Times, that is a Maryland athletics fan site. He asked him, what did you think about them coming down and kind of giving you the business over the course of the day? And Willard paused for an instant and then unleashed just a wicked retort. This is a quote. They wasted a Saturday afternoon. I don't know what the F they were doing. And he didn't say F. They got nothing better to do on a Saturday than come look at my bald backside. And he didn't say backside. I don't know what they're doing. End quote. You have to love Kevin Willard. He just has a way of saying what's on his mind. It hurt him a little bit during this messy divorce with Maryland last year, but to his credit, he took his beating in the media, just went about building Villanova up, and let the Maryland fans have their complaining session. Understandably so. Why? Ruined their trip to the Sweet 16 in their mind. The attention went to, would their coach leave rather than what their team had accomplished. But at a certain point, you got to let it go. And the Maryland fans, it's getting kind of sad and pathetic at this point. They seem to be completely confounded by the concept of coaches leaving for other programs. Kevin Willard deemed Villanova a better job. It is a better job, better history, just as good resources in terms of what they're allocating to basketball, and an alumni base that is fervent in wanting to win at basketball no matter what. That is what you're looking for as a coach. That's what Kevin Willard got, and he's done an excellent job, obviously, at Villanova. He is the clear front runner to win Big East Coach of the Years. That victory against Georgetown, in the eyes of ESPN, made Villanova a lock to get into the tournament. I think they're right on the precipice. Either way, what a season it's been. Meanwhile, Maryland, hey, they did get their second Big Ten win over the course of the weekend for the season when they beat Minnesota.
Matt throwing shots at the Terps. Maryland is just a Big Ten program. I think Willard is a Big East guy, right? He played in the Big East. He's coached in the Big East. Obviously, with Seton Hall, he was an assistant. He's just the perfect fit for this conference. I told you guys when I came on the show earlier in the year, he's the prickly pear, and you'll get these dandies of these quotes all the time. And I'd rather listen to him talk like this than John Shire talk about a punch with that never happened. So, like, I'd rather listen to this a little trash talking than someone whining. So I'll take prickly Kevin Willard any day.
If no camera in an arena catches a punch in the face,
hey, pondering thoughts last.
Did it actually happen? Like, oh my goodness. But hey, Maryland's not the first fan base who has a problem when a coach leaves. LSU spent like 20 years dealing with Nick Saban in Alabama, and they could never get over the fact that he left LSU.
It's just at a certain point, you got to move on. Maryland fans are there to go to that Georgetown game when your team is that bad. Just to heckle somebody who's gone on and had success, it just makes you look little. It's just not a good look whatsoever. If you want more thoughts on the subject from me, visit BigEastEnergyNetwork.com and check out the Energy Forum. We've got a new website that we have launched. We've got writers. Patrick Madden from Pirate Vibes is on there. Colleen's got UConn women's basketball covered. Mark's putting down his thoughts, building something special. Check it out, Big East Energy Network.
There's a lot of Willard content.
Yeah, how about that? Back-to-back stories. Patrick and I didn't coordinate.
Way too much Willard content, but I'm excited to see what you guys write. So I'm excited. You guys ready to jump in these tiers?
Yeah, let's talk about our tiers of joy in the Big East Energy Network. Look at what things are doing. And by the way, as we talk about that, we should also probably talk about our partnership at Big East Energy Network with our good friends at Home Field Apparel. So let's pause actually and hear the message from Home Field. The Big East Energy Network is proud to partner with Home Field Apparel, a premium collegiate apparel brand based in Indianapolis. They've got over 150 different colleges to choose from in their arsenal, including all of the Big East programs that you know and love. If you're a Big East fan, chances are you kind of have an old school soul. Well, you want that old school look while you're showing off your fandom, the logos, the history. It's such a part of the Big East. And Home Field Apparel, that's their specialty. They go through all the archives and history of each school, try to delve into what makes it special before they put out any type of new apparel. And they just dropped a whole bunch of new product when it comes to the Big East. I have spent literally hours just going through all the different options that they have. It is a real fun trip down memory lane, and it also can add to your wardrobe. Visit homefieldapparel.com for more information or check out the link in the description below. Home Field Apparel, a proud supporter of the Big East Energy Network. Our thanks to Home Field Apparel. And now it's time to talk about who's happy in the Big East. There is one fan base that is unequivocally very satisfied with where they are right now. We just talked about him a moment ago, so we won't spend too much time on him, or otherwise Bryan Webster's head will explode.
We're all different types of shots. The Patriots, now you're starting to call me Pat. Yeah, come on.
Freudian slip. Was thinking about the website. My apologies. But Villanova's fan base is quite pleased. I mean, think that they have gone through what they did over the last 3 years and to bring back just 9% of the returning production from last year's team. New coach, hired late in the process, trying to put the roster together on the fly, lost out on some talent publicly through the transfer portal that he was hoping to get. Did bring in a Caden Lewis, though, surrounded him with pieces to complement the rookie very well. And Villanova is on its way back to the NCAA tournament, and the fan base is loving every second.
Yeah, I mean, exceeding all expectations, especially, expectations we had, even Bryan, who was higher than us, predicting them to finish fourth. It's looking like they're going to finish third. What, they're 2.5 up on Creighton for third place. I don't know how you could be much happier with the job that Willard has done in year one, other than like having a national championship contender. But given where we thought this team was going to be at the beginning of the year, a good team, but probably right on the bubble, maybe on the outside looking in, and you got to be happy with that.
Yeah, well, there hasn't been a bad loss on the schedule. Even the Creighton one, I would argue, is not a bad loss. Willard has done Willard things, and Caden Lewis, like Matt said, has just been phenomenal. All guys, you guys keep saying 9%, right? Came back from scoring.
Yeah.
It was just one guy. Can we just right? It's just one guy, right? Like it wasn't.
The fancy math sounds better, though, right?
Oh, see, you keep doing 9%. I'm like, all right. Well, I know Hodge was there, but he didn't do anything. Just having two guys come back and, the late start, and he was able to – you guys have to be ecstatic. Like, this is exactly what you guys wanted. And now, can he take them to the next step? We're already talking about next year where they got to be a little bit better. They're going to be a tough out in the tournament. You said Lenardi said they were a lock now, right?
Yeah,
They moved them into
Lenardi.
lock
So
status.
that means they have to be at least a 6-5 seed if they're going to be a lock, right? Like more than likely, unless they got dumb losses on the way down the rest of the year. But
They do still have to play UConn and St. John, so they do have a good chance to drop two more, which would probably put them in that 7.
If you're a 7, right? If you're a 7, I don't want to be a 2 and have to play Villanova because they can get hot at any time. If I'm a 2 seed, I don't want Villanova to be the 7 on my side. So hats off to you guys for a great season. As much as that pains me after this week.
Are you saying that through gritted teeth right now?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Well, you guys said it very well, though, too. This won't be enough long-term for the Villanova fan base, but after the jarring retirement of Jay Wright, the disappointment of the last 3 years, losing so much, you can't not be happy about this. And you're in kind of a no-lose situation come March. If you make a run, great. If you don't, it was still a good year. You try to build upon it moving forward. Listen, St. John's, UConn fans, we hear you. We understand you're a much better team. Here comes our next slide. The to-be-determined group. Are you happy or are you not happy? Because if you look at the comments on Mark's show for the UConn fans, they're not all that upset. If you look at Twitter, they're very upset. So it's kind of that middle ground. St. John's fans, obviously very happy. A thrilling win on Friday night over UConn at the Garden. It was an old-school Garden atmosphere. About a 70-30 split towards St. John's when you talk to people that were there, but it was living and dying on every possession. Rick Pitino's team looking like the team we anticipated they were coming into the year. I would have put them in the content category, except for the fact that it was like 3 weeks ago that they were lamenting the underachieving nature of this team. And what was it, 2 weeks ago, that John Fana's yelling at St. John's fans because they were so out of touch with reality in terms of the complaints. I understand it was maybe the fringe fans for those St. John's faithful that were on that Spaces call with Fanta, but if you're setting John Fanta off, I can't say that within the calendar month, I can't say that you're fully happy.
No, I would say that St. John's, you're upset about the non-con. You're upset from October through the beginning of December. They started turning around, and now you're happy. You just got to win against UConn. That fan base is feeling pretty good about themselves. UConn, you should be happy, but you're not. I'm sure we'll get some comments in the comment section saying, yeah, we're just fine. You're not happy because you don't like losing. Nobody does. But you haven't had a bad loss. You're a 2-loss team who at the very worst is going to be a 2 seed. You're probably still in the driver's seat for a 1 seed, given that Gonzaga lost. So I think that they see the little chinks in the armor and are concerned about going forward when you get into Sweet 16, Elite 8 against better competition. Are those issues going to arise?
Well, we call this to be determined, right?
Mm-hmm.
What, in your guys' take, what would make it these fan bases be in the Villanova category? Is it Final Four or bust for both of them? Or does St. John's tempered kind of their expectations because of the non-con? What do you guys say? Because I think UConn is Final Four or bust. I think they're disappointed if they're not in the Final Four.
I think UConn is final. I think UConn might be national championship, or they're going to be upset.
That's fair too. And then St. John's, is it Sweet 16? Is Sweet 16 enough for Rick Pitino for this season to be okay? At the beginning of the season, like you had national guys. The guy Gary Parrish put them in the championship, put him as the champion. So like you had very, very high expectations. Would you consider it to be a disappointment if they don't make it to the Final Four? Would that fan base consider it a disappointment?
I would probably say maybe. I think that this team, like given what they are, Elite 8, Final Four is their ceiling. Like if you get clipped off at the Sweet 16 in a really good game, are you really that upset? I don't know. I feel like St. John's fans are harder to gauge than UConn fans. Like maybe they're happy about that, but
they just came back to college basketball. Like
yeah,
they really have. They're not. They just came back.
I think there's a difference between disappointed and disappointing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think they will be disappointed, and you are only going to get so many opportunities with Rick Pitino. He's not exactly a young and up-and-coming coach, right? So you want to take advantage of every opportunity you had, and the expectations were what the expectations were coming into the year. He certainly built this team to be a Final Four contender, if not national championship threat. But at the same time, considering where you were after that loss to Providence in early January, to turn it around the way they have, and as Bryan mentioned, I mean, the recent history, getting to a Sweet 16 is still a big deal for St. John's, still a step forward. It allows them to go build momentum in the transfer portal, bring in more talented players, and perhaps make another run next year. So I don't think it would be a disappointing campaign, but I think the fans would have every right to be disappointed if it comes up short of the Final Four. I will push back on one thing here, though, David. I don't know if St. John's ceiling is just to get to the Final Four anymore. Not if they play defensively in a full court press style that they have here these last 6 weeks without fouling, because that takes them to another level. What was their Achilles heel? They were competitive in all of the elite competition non-conference games they played. They just came up a little bit short. Why? Because they couldn't get stops. They're not trying to just sit back and defend in the half court anymore. They're trying to kind of take it to opposing offenses, take them out of their comfort zone. They went bigger. They went longer. That is working out. You can see teams really struggling to get into their offense against this Johnnies group. And if they're going to play like that, I'd give them a puncher's chance. If they shoot the ball the way they have really all season long, and they rebound, and then you add this pressure, they could go win 2 games in a Final Four setting. Absolutely. Do I think they will? That's a different conversation. Can they, which is what their ceiling would be? I do. I think the ceiling for this team, I think the way they are playing and the style they have found, and Pitino understands how to coach full court pressure. That was part of his MO at Kentucky. It's not like he's just gone to this out of absolute necessity. This is part of the way he likes to coach a team, and I think he feels good about the way this team's playing right now. I understand on Monday night they went to overtime against Xavier, so success is fleeting. You have to stay with it and keep getting better, but I do think that this team's ceiling is maybe higher than even just Final Four.
The one thing I just learned is Matt Janus is back on the bus with Ricky P. Because
He's got-
about a
he's
month
like,
ago,
you can't quit him.
he
You
was
can't
kind of
quit
hot
him.
and cold. What's that?
You can't quit him. You just can't. He is Slick Rick is Slick Rick, man. You might get frustrated with him for a little while, but he's the GOAT, man. He is the Big East GOAT.
It's just funny to hear you come back around, and now they're Final Four. The most important player has got to be Darling, correct? Like he's got. I know Zuby's important and Mitchell's important, but what Darling does got to be the most important, right, for St. John's long term? Or do you think
X factor at least? He's the biggest X factor, I think.
Yeah. And then on UConn, I would have to say it's solo ball. Like you got to get the old solo ball back for them to reach their full capacity.
And stop turning the ball over too.
Yeah. So that's
just a little bit of defense, just a little bit.
Yeah.
That's where I have questions about St. John's ceiling. Is I just don't know that when you get into an Elite Eight and assuming that 7 of the best programs out there, obviously there are going to be upsets in the tournament, but I don't think you're going to get the turnovers. I think that there are a lot of teams out there who take care of the ball. Arizona takes care of the ball. Like maybe you get a good matchup, but I feel like that is more luck. I feel like an Elite Eight, I think they can get to a Final Four. So that's why I say Elite Eight, Final Four. I don't think they're a national championship contender.
Is UConn one of the 4 best teams in the country?
Probably.
I mean, they just took it to UConn the other night. I understand it's one game, but like it's not like they took it to a fringe top 15 team and they turned them over left and right. Look, UConn is a bit of an enigma right now because they either look great or they look terrible. There's not a lot of middle ground with UConn, and it all seems to come within the same game. But that being said, I still think UConn is chock full of pros. Obviously, one of the best coach teams in the country, and for St. John's to do that to them, I don't necessarily agree with it. I do think that can they do it 3 times in a row against that level of competition? They're going to have to go out and prove that they can. But I'm not predicting St. John's to win the national championship. You said their ceiling was Final Four team, and I said I think maybe they've stretched that ceiling a little higher.
I just think it depends on what the bracket looks like. I think if they're what are we thinking? They're like a 4 right now, 4 seed.
Right now, 4, but I mean, I think if they take care
they
of
can
business,
get
there's
to
a
a
really
3.
good chance they'll get to a 3.
They can get to a 3, but if they stay as a 4, Michigan and Arizona are going to be 1s. I don't think they can play with Michigan or Arizona. The other 2 1 seeds, potentially, especially if it's like UConn, Duke,
and it won't be
Michigan
UConn.
State,
Iowa State.
Iowa State.
State's probably I was about to say Iowa State just moved ahead of UConn. UConn slid all the way down to 6 in the latest AP poll. AP poll is stupid. We've talked about that in this program before, but the fact of the matter remains, UConn is not locked to be a 1 anymore.
No, yeah, I understand. So that's where I'm struggling, is I feel like it's very dependent, and a lot of this is dependent on matchups. I just feel like if you remain a 4 and you run into the buzzsaw of Michigan or Arizona, I don't think it ends well, but I don't think it ends well for a majority of the country. So
I hear you on that. And I think that's fair. If Michigan and Arizona are playing at their best, they are the 2 best teams by, I think, a pretty wide margin. I understand we are going to hear about that in the comments from the UConn fans. But I'm sorry, I do think their ceilings are just higher than everybody this year. That's the way it kind of looks. But I think that there is a world where St. John's, with that size inside, that length, that athleticism, they score on everyone. I mean, they just do. They score on everyone. They played. It was an exhibition. I understand that, but they played Michigan in October, and it was like 93-92.
Yeah.
Different situation, not a real game, all that stuff. But they scored at will on everybody they played once the regular season started as well. Now they're getting some stops. I just think if this offense can get some stops and turnovers, they're tough to beat, man. They are really good.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right,
that's cool, but
yeah, we're not going to spend as much time on this one because, quite frankly, we have talked probably too much about DePaul on this podcast, and I understand that. I still think it has been an impressive year for DePaul. in terms of taking a stride forward. Maybe not as big a stride as we thought they might, but they've taken a big step forward. Their fan base can't be mad, and yet we talked about what they did a couple weeks ago to blow that game against Xavier. So, yeah, there's still some things to be frustrated by. Xavier is building. It's first year under Richard Pitino. They have some really ugly losses. They don't have a lot of great wins, but they're more competitive, I think, than a lot of people thought they would be, including taking the St. John's to overtime on Monday night. So to me, I think these fan bases are, tempered enthusiasm and some things that are like, this is not that much fun to watch all the time, but it does feel like their programs are going in the right direction.
With Xavier, did Rick take it easy on Richard, or does Richard just know Rick so well that he's in his head? Which, that's the only way that it makes sense for Xavier to take St. John's to overtime after
letdown spot too.
I guess so. But
David and his conspiracy theories, he loves them.
Hey, what can I say? I'm just saying, you're playing your son and you go to overtime with a team that you should blow out. What was the spread on that game?
I do the graphics for the game day slate. It was 15 and a half.
15 and a half.
I was going to say, at one point, I think it ballooned to 17, too. So a lot of people unhappy with Slick Rick tonight. His team did not get it done for him. How about the St. John's marketing staff, by the way? Pretty good. Long Island Railroad, after that UConn game, they had the posters already changed and ready to go for the game on Monday night between the Battle of the Patinos. I thought that was a nice little touch. A marketing staff being on top of it, trying to bring the energy and capitalize on the successful night back with them to that game on Monday. They won. You ask how they win the games. All right, next tier. Bryan, we're looking at you. This is your tier. I think this sums up your relationship with Seton Hall right now, does it not? This is the Seton Hall and Creighton tier. I don't know how to feel.
Yeah, I definitely don't know how to feel, because obviously when you compare it to last year, I feel great. But when you're 14-2 at one point in the season, and now you are trending where you're not going to be you're planning your crown weekend to Vegas right now. It's not great. This team is so frustrating. I love this team, but it's still so frustrating to watch this team day in, day out. We'll see how they end the season. I feel like Casey would say the same thing about Creighton, that it's been one of those seasons where sometimes it looks good and you feel good, and then sometimes it is terrible. And obviously he felt good this weekend in Omaha, while I did not. It just the return. It's almost like games were identical to the both times they played, because Seton Hall made that crazy comeback and figured it out in the last few minutes. So it is what it is. That's the way I'm looking at it. I only had them in 8th place. Did I have bigger expectations in the beginning of January? Yeah, without a doubt. But I guess the flaws have shown themselves, and I something we've talked about on Power Vibes, we've talked about on here and everything. The lack of offense comes back and rears its ugly head. Yeah. And with this week, when I said they had to go 2-0 this week and they went 0-2, it's just the wheels are off the wagon. So it's all good. We're moving on. We're focused on DePaul and Providence. Come on.
I was gonna say, we're not moving on this topic quite yet. We got to talk about it. We got to pick at it just a little bit more. It is a really interesting conundrum for Seton Hall fans, because you're in a spot where, as Bryan alluded, I mean, when you struggle the way you did last year, you double your win total. You can only be so upset by that, and yet you thought the arrow of the program would be pointed sharply up, and it doesn't feel like that's necessarily the case anymore because of the way Big East play is going. It's not so much the inconsistency. I mean, losing twice to Villanova, that's a really bad matchup for Seton Hall. We talked about that last week. It's a bad matchup. I mean, as David alluded to, coaches are very big on this. Basketball is a game of matchups. Seton Hall, I feel like, could play Villanova a lot of times. It probably wouldn't go Seton Hall's way. It's just Villanova's weaknesses don't play into Seton Hall's strengths, and Villanova's strengths are better than Seton Hall's. UConn, took them to a close game, lost. St. John's probably should have won. But it's the lesser teams in the conference that are not even threatening for NCAA tournament appearances that you're losing to that is kind of head scratching right now. DePaul and Creighton. I mean, I know Villanova lost a game to Creighton too, but that was early in the year when Creighton was playing much better. Creighton seemed like they were on the verge of letting it go completely to you know where, and they just rescue it somehow against Seton Hall. It's hard to figure right now with Shaw, and it just this will be a big test for Shane Holloway because I thought last year he let it get away from him more than it needed to.
Yeah.
And this year it's kind of it's headed off the tracks. He doesn't have to get to the NCAA tournament, but just can he avoid it completely derailing? Is that fair?
Yeah, well, they lost 6 out of last 8. Like, he hasn't made changes to starting lineup. He hasn't, like, the rotation's the exact same that you saw in the first Villanova matchup. It's the same exact thing day in, day out. And what's the definition of insanity, right? You're expecting different results. It's fallen off. The losing to DePaul was probably the loss that hurts the most up until the Creighton loss. It's ugly. When it's ugly, it's real ugly. So there's nothing more I could say, Matt. Like it's been a tough run since the middle of January, or the beginning of January. So we'll see what they do against Providence and Butler and DePaul and Georgetown before we wrap up with UConn and St. John's in our final 2 of the last 3. A lot of the Pirate faithful might be drunk on this team because they're like, hey, if we could beat St. John's and UConn and win a game at the Big East, I think we're an NIT crown team, and that's okay because last year we were the worst power conference team in the country outside of maybe Miami. So I'm okay, Matt. All right, I'm okay. Yeah, I guess you see a little bit of me when I'm texting you, and I'm all in my feelings. I'm okay, man. I'm okay.
Wait.
I think.
Wait, David. Are you okay, Brian? Because you just said it 4 times. That normally means you're not okay.
Well, you had to bring up the Patriots, and then now you're bringing up the Pirates, and it just there's nothing more. I've had a tough week in my sports fandom.
Brian, I just want you to know it's not your fault. Okay, it's not your fault.
Well, this team doesn't have
fault.
shooting. It doesn't have shooting. Like, how many times do I have to say, like, there's not a shooter on this team? Like, you need shooting in modern college basketball. You need at least one shooter. They have 0.
And I understand why Seton Hall is upset. It was just expectations ballooned. You were 14-2, looking real good at if you were 16
top 25.
Yeah,
still egregious. By the way, I had that one. One of the rare things I was right about.
If you were 16-8 and you spread those 8 losses out more, you'd be ecstatic as a Seton Hall fan.
Yeah,
I think it's just. You did really well in the non-con. You got 14 wins, 14-2, looking real good, looking like you are on the way to the NCAA tournament, and then the wheels came off. And that's unfortunate, but I think to double your win total, you have to see that as progress. You have to be a little excited about that, even if the end of the season it looks like you can't shoot your way out of a paper bag.
I just hope Shaw does not coach these guys hard where like he pisses off someone that they hit the portal, like someone like a Najee Hines or a Bud Clark and all that. Like I know it's tough right now, and Shaw's going to coach them tough, but I hope it doesn't fracture relationships where guys that could be, we add a few more pieces in the portal or recruiting. And maybe this team is a tournament team next year because they do have a lot of guys. I think there's only 3 seniors on the team. So, like, you really could bring back a lot. And with the payroll or whatever, NIL, whatever you want to call it, right? With it being limited, I think that these relationships are really important to be able to keep them because you might not be able to offer the same amount of money to Bud Clark. Like Bud Clark would be in demand. And we talked off air and, like, imagine him on a team with that's full of shooters. Like, imagine Bud Clark with a team of guys that can hit their shot when he sprays the ball. Like, imagine him on Villanova. I know you guys have a point guard, but imagine him with all those shooters
of that.
around.
But yes,
what's that?
They have a better version of that. But yes,
Well,
St. Louis is a better version of that right now at this stage of his development. But I hear what you're saying. You're right. You're not wrong.
Defensively, I would take Bud Clark. I know he's a little undersized, but like I just feel like if Bud's going to be in demand, and I just hope Shaw can keep that relationship, because, like I said, the last 2 out of 3 are against UConn and St. John's rolling into March. Like both those teams are expecting to turn it up and ready to go. And Seton Hall is a good test because they are a defensive team, and you might see a team like that in the tournament. So that's what I'm looking for in this terrible month of February.
Yeah, you got to stop losing to the bad teams. One of those that we thought might be a bad team, but maybe can salvage things here down the stretch, Creighton, but their fan base frustrated because they're just not used to being here before. Hard for them to be mad. It's kind of the same. The reason we lump them with Seton Hall is because it's very hard for the Creighton fan base to get too upset. They just won so much under McDermott, but this has been an underachieving team. It feels like their parts are better than what they're getting out of this group. And I love listening to the Roll Jays podcast because they have the coaches on after every game, and their coaches don't speak in coach speak. I think it's because they used to be on the same staff as Casey. It's really an interesting kind of dissection of the losses, and you get some real honesty out of that coaching staff, and you can hear the frustration because they're searching for ways to get through their principles to this team that they just have been unable to do to this point. And it's why this team is so different than the teams we have seen in recent past from the Creighton program. And that's concerning because you don't want to lose your DNA. If your DNA starts to shift, now all of a sudden you're not part of your family anymore. You turn into something different. And Creighton's pretty good with who they are, it feels like.
You guys think this is Mac's last season, or do you think he's coming back one more? Because I have a feeling the way this is going, this might be the last one. And that's sad to say, but I think with what is his name? Huss. With Huss already on the staff and already kind of, being involved with all the team management and everything, I think this could be the last ride for Mac. And it's just terrible because he's kind of owned the Big East for a good part of a decade. So
the experts seem to be pretty split on it.
I feel like most coaches try and end on an upswing. I don't know what he's got coming in next year.
I don't think he knows yet either.
Yeah, nobody knows. I don't think change automatically.
So, that might be a problem, especially if he doesn't want to deal with the portal, which seems to be what a lot of the coaches of his era are sick of. So maybe it is. And he just says, I'm done. I don't want to have to go into the portal. I don't want to have to recruit my own guys to stay anymore. I'll walk away.
They've got a tough stretch coming up between the 14th and 21st. They play Villanova, UConn, and St. John's right back to back. And I believe 2 of them are on the road. Let me double check. Yeah, UConn and St. John's back to back on the road after you play Villanova. It just for it to be a tough season, and then you still have those 3 games in a row at the end of the season, like it's going to get tougher. Unless it would be crazy if he was able to a little bit of Mac magic, but we'll see.
If you won those 3 games, they'd be a tournament team. The metrics still oddly like Creighton, but
yeah, I don't know.
If I
like when you have things like that, when you say things like that because they've had a terrible season, the metrics, like I feel like there's like a human involvement with those metrics. Somehow we don't know about it, but like, oh, we like Mac. Mac's gonna get a good favor to on that. Here we go, David. Go ahead.
Brian, are you suggesting that the advanced metrics, they are advanced? There's no human error there. It's a computer just spitting out numbers. We don't do anything with it.
I'm just saying, like, Mac's had a tough season. Like, how do they keep hanging around the 50s? Like, they don't have like a great win. I just don't get it. But anyways, we can talk.
I was going to allude more to the fact that, if my wife married me and I was the king, she would be queen. But I ain't the king, so she ain't gonna be the queen. Creighton hadn't beaten those 3 teams back to back to back. They just lost by 40 at home to UConn. It's you can let your mind wander, but that kind of sums up where Creighton is right now.
I don't know how I feel. All right, I don't know how I feel.
You're okay though. You're okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right.
right now the net has UConn behind Gonzaga. It doesn't make sense. It makes no sense. And I just
I told you guys that UConn would have some problems if they drop one here. The 1 seed was not a lock. I got crushed by the UConn fans for that, and
because
from you too, by the way.
apparently losing at St. John's is the same thing as losing to Portland. They're basically the same teams.
Well,
According
I will say I was wrong about that. I was not counting on Gonzaga losing to Portland. I had that one not correct, I will say. All right, let's
well,
go
according to the net, they're the same.
Let's go on to the next topic. Love this. Great one for Bryan. And it sums it up. What? Providence, or excuse me, Butler and Marquette. I don't know, man. Like, Butler, second straight year they have done this, where they feel like they're going to be potential Big East team to get an at-large. They took care of business in the non-conference portion of the schedule. They have been the most inconsistent team in conference play by a mile. They have nights where they look like that group that we saw in November and early December. And then they have other nights where it looks like they are completely splintered as a program. And then on the other side, Marquette, I understand they're young and they'll bring a lot of pieces back. Are their young pieces getting that much better?
Here's the thing about Marquette. They're 2 games out of 5th place in the conference. I know most of the teams are at 4-9, but everyone's been disappointed. Everyone's been disappointed with Marquette, especially. That they've been bad, but they're in step with the whole conference. Like, if you really think of or half the conference outside of the top 4, I guess they're 3 games behind. Is it 3 games? Yeah, 3 games behind Creighton. But I guess the longer the season's gone on, like, I'm not disappointed with Marquette. I just think they're young. I think they do have
you love Shaka. He's
4-9 and 15.
4-9 in a conference. You're not disappointed.
Yeah, but 4-9. You're talking about DePaul. We're giving DePaul roses, but they're tied for last place, which would continue the trend of them being last. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, he took a step back. He took a step back, and I'm not saying it hasn't been a disappointing season. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that.
Do we have a rewind function on this? Do we have a rewind function?
Maybe it's not as bad as like everyone's pointing. Maybe they're not as far off. I just don't. I think everyone's too tough on Marquette.
I hear what you're saying. It's not been the.
They've got 9 wins this season,
disaster.
4 of them are in conference, so that tells you the Big East is down. Then that's what you're really saying, because they've been able to beat these teams that they're tied with 4-9. They haven't beat anyone great yet, but
the Big East is down. It's a 3-bid conference. It is. I mean, it's unquestionably. We love the conference, but it is down this year. It does not have any depth.
Yeah, but I think it's wild to say that you're not disappointed in Marquette. Like, Shaka for everything.
I was a month ago. Like, my whole point is, like, I was disappointed when it started, but like, I think he's kind of
because they were so bad. You've just resigned yourself to the fact that they're bad.
Yeah, they went from unmitigated disaster to disaster.
Yeah.
Hey, how about that?
I just think there's been
what
some
are you, Rick
points.
Pitino? They play so hard.
Like they beat Creighton by 24, right? They beat Butler by 15. Like, I think there's been some bright moments in this season that I for Marquette standards, is it down? Yes. But if it was DePaul, you'd be like, oh, they're all right. And I just think they're gonna be fine. He's gonna be fine. All these guys, I've been repeating myself all night. Next, go.
Look, I'm gonna go see them in person. They're at the Finn. I'm gonna go watch the game.
Take a Jack?
I will take a Jack.
Okay.
You know what? We'll let Jack decide. We'll let my 5-year-old decide how disappointing Marquette is. I have a feeling he's gonna tell me they stink, but we'll see. I'll get his opinion, but I promise I will go in with an open mind and no biases, no what the heck is this, and see how much they've improved. Because I did watch them much closer in non-conference to try to figure out what the heck was going on, not as closely in conference. So I will go in with an open mind on Tuesday night.
I will not.
They've won 3 out of the last 5. They've won 3 out of the last 5.
Bryan, you have to compare them to what they've been. That's like saying the Jets are terrible. If they win like 5 games, that's a good season. The Chiefs have been great. If they drop all the way down and win the same 5 games as the Jets, that's a terrible season. Like you have to judge them in context. Like it's terrible for everything that Shaka is. He's usually a good regular season coach. They're usually there, and then the calendar turns to March, and he forgets what coaching is, and they forget how to play. But he's usually there in the regular season. That 9 wins, that's awful.
Who's the other team in this group? Who's the other team?
Butler. We don't even describe it. Everybody's disgusted by Butler. They let the Big East down. They turn their back on the family. It's like out of the Godfather. We needed you. We needed you as a league. You were in position, and for the second straight year, you thumbed your nose.
They've got 2 of the most fun guys to watch in this league, though. Like like we kind of like Jai and Bizjak are 2 of the guys that I love watching this league, but.
You should win more games. You shouldn't lose to that Marquette
well,
team.
It goes to this title of this screen. What?
Yeah.
What? Like that's just what Butler is. Butler is the perfect definition for this.
I know it was you, Fredo.
As negative as that discussion was, we got another level to dig down. Everything is fine, guys, as we put the Elmo fire meme on your screen. Yeah, we're talking about Providence and Georgetown. What in the world? They always find a way together, don't they? Let's start with Providence. This team is a talented basketball team. You know, we talk all the time about good coaches find a way to make the sum greater than the parts. This is the complete opposite of that this year for Providence. These parts are solid. There are some flaws there in terms of roster build, but you would think that you'd be able to figure something out with these parts. They got no consistency, no defense. It's just there's your unmitigated disaster, Brian.
Yeah, it's who's replacing Kim English. I think that's the biggest thing going forward for Providence. It's been pretty bad. Georgetown, I've been talking about this. I think if Kim's on the hot seat, then Ed Cooley should be on the hot seat. I've said that for a while. It's just Ed Cooley's a lot cooler to the people that cover and make these stories. So I think he's given a longer leash there. But both these teams are very disappointing. I know Owen and Rasheen will tell you that, they just did a draft special. Like their roster is loaded. I just don't. It's just been 2 disappointing teams. And crazy, Georgetown at the beginning of the season was that team that everyone was like, hey, they might be a tournament team, and they just fell on their face. And if I was a Georgetown fan, I'd be talking about the next step of like what has to happen. And I think you move on from Ed Cooley, but I know you're going to argue against that because what do you go to? And I get that point. But at the same time, what do you go to if you're Providence? Because they've spent money too, so that they can get. I think they both can go after what's his name, the guy from St. Louis. What's his name? Shirts, Josh Shirts. I think they're both. That would be a good candidate for both of them. But that's just me.
The interesting thing about Shirts, though, he's got some money back in that program. You're going to have to come together with a good place or a good plan in place. Providence has that plan in place. Providence bought that roster. They got plenty of money. They got plenty of resources. They should be better than they are. They have one of the best sneaky good home court advantages that nobody outside of the Big East understands. There's just no reason for this to be that. Look, Georgetown's got to be better too. But the thing you always ignore when you compare Kim English and Ed Cooley is the situations that they took over. Ed Cooley left Kim English in a good spot. Patrick Ewing did not leave Ed Cooley anything.
But in college basketball now, I don't think that matters.
He had to build the infrastructure. If they had the infrastructure in place, like Villanova, Kevin Willard comes into a program where the infrastructure was there. The people were pining to spend the money to help get the program back. And that's how he was able to fast track. Ed Cooley, look, he has shortcomings. You can't lose that game. The way they played. That was right for the upset of Villanova over the course of the weekend. And they missed 14 free throws, and you couldn't take advantage because of silly turnovers. and way too many turnovers, which hasn't been a problem most of the year. It just they lose games in weird ways, and every time they build momentum, they had 14,000 fans. Granted, 500 of them were Maryland fans wasting their time to boo Kevin Willard. 6,000 of them were Villanova fans, but they still had 7,500 of their own fans, which is a big deal at Georgetown. And that's part of the problem. That's what we're talking about Ed Cooley having to build that infrastructure. Kim English didn't have to worry about any of that. The money was in place, the fan base was in place, the interest, just everything was there to keep it going. And he did for 1 year, kind of. They missed the tournament. And then it's just been backslide. At least Cooley has been trending up.
I get what you're saying. I think first of all, I think Kim was over his head. He should have never got the job in the first place. That's just he just didn't improve enough. That he struggled at George Mason, right? He wasn't dominant at George.
Was not dominant, that's for sure.
Yeah. So like I think he maybe bit off more than he can chew. Well, I get what you're saying now. Ed Cooley had to build everything back up, but in this day and age, like results can happen a lot quicker if you spend money, and they are spending money. Obviously, they got the kid from Arizona. I'm never going to pronounce the center's name correctly, but you know who I'm talking about, Vince. Like they got guys. They're disappointing, but at the end of this season, they might end up in fifth place in this conference because they're only one game behind Seton Hall. So it might end up looking a lot better for Ed Cooley. I guess both of them can technically do it. But David, you disappeared for a little bit.
Yeah, apparently my computer really thought your Marquette take was just wild, that it decided to shut itself down.
Yeah.
And then I had to come back in.
Well played. But
yeah, I'm jumping here on Georgetown, but like, I don't know what's going on there. Since 2007, they went to the Final Four, and since then they've been out in the woods somewhere. And you bring in Ed Cooley, who was consistently good at Providence, and what has happened there? So I understand Georgetown it's a dumpster fire right now. Like, you've got to figure it out, because at one time there were guys everywhere wearing Georgetown stuff. Georgetown was the coolest place to be, and now
paranoia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one bright spot, looking at their results and everything, and really looking at it, they really haven't lost to anyone terrible in the month since January began, when they started to lose Seton Hall, Creighton, UConn, Villanova. They beat Providence, DePaul, Butler, and Creighton. Lost to Villanova. So like, I think we all think Georgetown should be up, but maybe he's done enough to stay in the middle of the conference, which I guess is progress. That's the nicest I'm going to go with that. That's the nicest I'm going to go with this team, is that they're beating who they're, I guess, kind of close with, but they're just not beating. They're not punching up.
All right. Speaking of getting punched, we got punched a little bit in the comments last week. Let's take a look at our comment of the week.
Comment of the week came from Jamie Fialkin, 7475. The best thing for my Johnnies is to be overlooked 3 or 6 seed. Don't want a 4 or 5. We need to split with UConn. If we get them on Friday of last week, then we get some respect and get back in the top 15.
Close.
First of all, I chose this comment because I was not going to choose the UConn comment, because I think UConn people were absolutely crazy last week. Shout out to all our UConn listeners. I know there's a ton of them, but
and be crazy again. We love it.
Yeah.
We saw it. We noticed you crushed us.
Yeah. Well, and UConn fans came after DePaul, like praising DePaul a lot, and I was just like, man, it's just DePaul. Like it's not,
we were not comparing DePaul and UConn. We promised. We were just impressed by DePaul.
You said something nice about DePaul and not UConn. Like, how can you do that? Like, crazy. But comment of the week. Leave a comment below. Tell us where your team is in tiers. Maybe we got it wrong, and you could be featured next week. Now to everybody's favorite segment, the pondering thought.
Okay. So I have young children who listen to songs over and over and over and over again. Same song. Right now, we're going back through it with Marshall, who is all on Bingo. And every time I listen to it, Allison and I get into this debate a lot.
Whoa, like Bingo?
Yeah. There
Okay.
was a farmer, had a dog, and Bingo was his name.
Just making sure.
Is Bingo the name of the farmer or the dog? They never clarify this in the song.
It's a dog. It's got to be the dog.
I'm just saying, where's the comma?
Matt's singing the song right now in his head. Matt's not saying anything because he's actually singing the whole song. I didn't relive the lyrics.
I'm trying to listen for the pause in the song to find out where the commas are, because I guess you're technically right.
Yeah.
There was a farmer on the as an aside, he had a dog, but Bingo was his name. That could be back to the farmer. This is a real meta English major conversation. As the resident useless English journalism major in this Big East Beat episode, I would have to say that it is poorly written song.
Poorly written sentence. And I think they want you to believe, hey, that big child song energy, they want you to believe that Bingo is the dog. I'm going with the farmer. I'm going to be a contrarian and say the farmer's name is Bingo.
How long did this conversation with Allison last is the real question that people want to know.
I mean, this was probably like when you get a little delirious and you start talking about stuff, it was probably a good 15, 20-minute conversation about commas and whether Bingo was a dog, because everybody assumes Bingo's a dog's name. But, I mean, anything could be a human name, too. Bingo might be his nickname. His real name's Michael. People just call him Bingo.
Maybe he's addicted to bingo. Maybe he's got a problem. He goes down to the fire hall every Wednesday night.
And now you guys are all
wasted all his money again.
Yeah, you all are making fun of him because he's got a gambling problem. Poor Bingo.
Wow,
Ryan, you got a thought?
Well, it's the dog's name. I was just trying to look this up real quick, see if there's any other reference.
Well, Brian's asking AI. That's what Brian does.
Yeah, I was trying to Wikipedia it real quick just to see if there's any kind of like, translation from the original song, but there's really nothing out there that signifies.
Yeah, I want to see the
original
lyrics written down, kind of like the Constitution. I want to see the original and find out where those commas are, so I can know, is it a dog or the farmer?
So the 1785 songbook, The Hummingbird, had an early transcription of the song without a title.
Goes all the way back to 1785.
Yes, 1785.
Didn't have that on my bingo card.
The farmer's dog left over a style. His name was Little Bingo. So, I think the original might.
So we've dumbed down bingo. That's what you're telling me as a society.
Wait, repeat that sentence. The farmer's dog
left over the style. His name was Little Bingo.
I still leave that up to interpretation. Is the farmer Little Bingo?
B with an I with an N with a G with an O. His name was Little Bingo. Bingo. His name was Little Bingo.
Like maybe this was one of those.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now.
Verse 2 was a big guy, and they called him Little Bingo.
Verse 2 reveals that the farmer might have a drinking problem because the first line is the farmer loved a good cup of ale. He called it rare good stingo. The farmer loved a cup of good ale. He called it good stingo. ST with an I, with an N with a G with an O. He called it rare good stingo. So you might be onto something here. He might be addicted to gambling.
He had a little stingo and he started slurring his words and it came out bingo and everybody started calling him Bingo.
Poor farmer works all day in the yard, comes home, has one ale, and Brian's called him a drunk. That sums it up right there.
No. If he's singing about his dog, which he loves, right? He loves animals. Mm-hmm. Then he's definitely singing about the alcohol that he loves, the little ale.
All right, we're closing on the 20-minute mark of that David and Allison talked about it last week. So we'll leave it to the audience. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Please like the video. It helps us get in front of more Big East fans. We'll be back with you next week. And be sure to tune into Pirate Vibes on Thursday as well. For David White, Bryan Webster, I'm Matt Janus. This has been Big East Beat.
It's good.